I'm going to say this with full confidence and try and prove me wrong, but the Ferrari 812 Superfast eats more oil than any other supercar I know. And the reason for that is because you have a huge 6.5 liter V12 in the front with a dual clutch transmission, and it is around a 3,600, I'm pretty sure a 3,600 pound car. Now, what you might be experiencing if you own one, or if you even have an F12, which I'm sure they could experience the same issue. Now, it's technically not an issue, but most Ferrari owners tend to have trouble understanding why their oil in the Ferrari 812 Superfast, or even the F12 like I mentioned previous, tends to run out pretty quickly. Now, what I mean by run out is not burn through the entire tank, but you'll notice that every 500 to 600 miles, you'll lose quite a bit of oil, and if you don't check it on a regular basis, you'll get a warning that shows up saying low oil pressure. And this is a problem that I had when we first got our 812, that I never even knew what it meant, and I really started freaking out. We took it to the mechanic shop and found out that there was literally no oil showing up on the dipstick, even with the car warm, which the operating temp is around 185 to 200 degrees, depending on where you live and the climate. I remember that day we had to put something like 6 to 8 quarts of oil in, which is insane. And it just finally started registering once we got all that oil in. After my shop and I, well, not really my shop, but after the shop we take our car to, and I did some research, we found out that in the owner's manual, or just talking to a Ferrari technician, they recommend to fill the Ferrari 812 Superfast with 1 quart of oil for every 600 miles, or 1,000 kilometers, and that's stock. Now this thing has a full straight pipe, so that's probably every 400 to 500 miles, which is insane amount of oil that this car burns through. But thankfully, it's really easy to fix. Now, like I said, you should check your oil level every 400 to 500 miles, 600 at max, to make sure you're still running good. Now, this car is very specific on the dipstick on where you want to fill your oil, because you want to fill it enough to where it's registering at a operating temp, but you don't want to overfill it to where you're filling it cold, and then when it's at an operating temp or even hotter, that you're overfilling the oil because it heats up so much. This is our spec here, and we are running a Novatec lowering springs, 21-inch and 22-inch wheels from Vossen with a chrome finish called the Vossen Evo 5s. Now, we chose this because we thought it would really flush with the red, and as you can see, it absolutely did. There are no complaints with these wheels, and they have lasted great so far. We have had them for over a year, and they have been amazing. You can also see the Novatec lowering springs in the back there with our painted red brake calipers to match the paint. Now, exhaust wise, we have a brand called Iconic Exhaust, and we are running an X pipe with no cats, which creates this car to be extremely loud. But I can also control that because it still has valves. Now, not valves that you press with a button, but you know, the valves, they're automatic valves. So basically, if I'm not driving the car hard, they'll close, or if I'm driving it in wet or sport mode, they'll close. Usually I tend to drive it in the race mode, and I can still keep the car pretty quiet while I'm not moving at fast pace or accelerating aggressively, which is nice for when you're in a neighborhood or when you're near a restaurant. Now, what I can say is on the cold starts, I can't control that, and it does get super loud. Now, with the 812, everyone's like, wow, well, you have mixed reviews, I would say. With the SVJ, it's a very simple, low but high tone, if you know what I mean. Very smooth. The 812 is super raspy. Now, we did go with stainless steel because titanium over time tends to expand, crack, and then break. So stainless steel is your better option, even though you can get a little bit of a higher pitch and a little bit of a raspier noise with titanium. It's completely up to you, but stainless steel is going to be your safer, longer, and better choice. Now let's get this thing started up, which, mind you, it is completely straight pipe, so super loud. It's going to be insane. It's not going to sound as good on video. As you guys know, cars never sound as good on video as they do in person, but we're going to start this thing up and it is going to have a little bit like a mosquito kind of sound, a little bit of a buzzing. That's just the way it is. You're going to hear it being raspy. That's the way the 812 is. Everyone's like, oh, your exhaust is loose and all that. I promise you it's not. We check this car all the time, and it is just because it is a Ferrari 812 Superfast, and they tend to have a raspier, higher pitched noise. Now let's get this thing started up. Hear the cold start, then we'll get it to operating temp by driving it around town a little bit, and then I'm finally going to show you how to fill up the oil, and that is the most important step because you do not want to mess that up. Before we start this car up, I got to take my Z06 down to the shop to get new tires on it because the rear tires are absolutely destroyed after 11,000 miles on them, and they only last to around 15, but if you know, you know. But anyways, we have huge tires. So let me show you what the tread looks like on it now. The right one looks a little bit more worn than the left, but nevertheless, they maybe have 500 miles, I would say max, left on them. But let me show you what they look like now, and then I'm gonna show you the new tires that came in, which are absolutely gigantic. They are 345s, which look huge when they're off the car. All right, as you guys can see here, very thin tread. I maybe have a couple hundred miles left on this. They have about 10 to 15,000 miles on it. I think more around 10, but we're gonna need to get these both replaced. As we can see, the other one back here is super low on tread, and it just makes it really unsafe in the rain. But nevertheless, let's go to the shop and drop it off. So these are the tires. We are running Pilot Sport 4s. As you guys can see, Michelin, of course. Still want to have good grip. And we're running 345s in the rear. So they are absolutely gigantic rear tires, super wide. So this will be ready tomorrow, which is nice because I want to take it out for tomorrow to do some YouTube. But holy crap, these tires are thick in the rears. And then I think the fronts we're running 295s, I'm pretty sure. Not 100%, but anyways, still crazy massive tires. Let's get back to the house, and I'm gonna show you guys, run you through all of the 812 oil things that you guys have to do to kind of make sure you want to keep a good amount of oil, but you also don't want to overfill it or keep it too low. Now I'm gonna demonstrate what this car sounds like. It's insane. Started the car, and as you guys can see, we are sitting at 123 degrees Fahrenheit, or 125 now, 127 now. We need that to be at 185 to 200 degrees. So I'm gonna go drive it around a little bit and see if we can't warm this up. PSI here. So this, you want around 10 to 15 PSI when it's fully heated up, at least. I think it was around 7 or 8 when we got the low PSI signal, and that means you are running low on oil, or at least that was the issue for us, which was good because that just means we have to fill up more oil rather than having a major issue. But right now we have 17,164 miles on this car. Got it with 4,000 miles. and have owned it since July 2024. So we've owned it almost 2 years and have put a decent amount of miles on it, which is great because that's how cars are meant to be. They're supposed to be driven. So right now we're sitting at 161, 163, so we still got about another 20 more degrees to go, which hopefully I can cover here in the next few miles, because I'm going to get gas right now at Costco, and let's see if we can't heat it up by the time we get there, which we should be able to. If not, I'll just let it idle a little bit while we're there. Okay, so you can't see it right now because I just backed up, but we managed, there we go. So we managed to get the oil temperature to 190 degrees, which is perfect. So now what we're gonna do is obviously we're gonna shut off the car. And then under here, sorry, I got my Crocs on, but we're gonna reach this and pull. You should hear it click. Gonna open the door, grab our oil. We'll start off with 1 quart. I shouldn't need too much. I filled it pretty recently. Now what you're gonna use is 5W40. This is what I use. European car formula from Mobil. Works great for me. That obviously depends on your engine size, but for the 812, this is what I would recommend. So I'm gonna grab the funnel, the rag, and we're gonna check out if we even need any oil in the first place. And if we don't, I'm still gonna show you how you guys can do it yourselves if you do need oil. I do apologize on the wind noise, but we got our oil there and our funnel there wrapped up in the rag. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna come with your right hand, you're gonna feel a little thing, push that in and lift up. This thing is pretty heavy, especially how windy it is out here. Slowly lift it up all the way to the top. You're gonna come over to the left side here. You're gonna see open. 1, 2, and 3. And you can just shimmy it out of there. We're just going to place that on the floor. You're going to see your Ferrari cap here. Now this can be super tightly on like this one is, so I'm going to have to grab my rag to get a better grip. Now that I've got our rag for better grip, we're just going to twist that off, and then if it's not too hot, you should be able to just use your fingers. And there. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your dipstick, pull it all the way out, wipe it right off. If you guys can see, you have your maximum line right here and your minimum line. And we're going to put that back down, and then we're going to read it in the sun. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but we are reading up pretty low. We want to be, so the cue with the oil is this is your max. So where the minimum line is your max, you never want to go over halfway between your max and your minimum markings on the dipstick. So I just go straight up to the minimum or a little bit underneath of that, maybe a quarter or half an inch underneath of that, and that's my safe spot. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our handy dandy funnel, and that looks like about a quart of oil. Should be just fine. So we're going to take this off. Now we'll just pour the whole thing in there. Slowly, make sure you do not spill any. That's why I use the funnel, because it makes it so much easier to pour. Make sure you get all that oil. And when we got that out, we'll just put the lid back on for this. And then we'll check the dipstick again. So let's wipe it off. Dip. Now we're gonna look at that. We're still about right here. Now the car is cooling down, but we still are about right here on the oil, whereas our min line's right here, so we still got a good amount of space. I'm gonna grab the other quart and put that in as well. Okay, so I just poured the other quart in. Let's take our dipstick out, wipe it off, and put it back in. Now we'll check it. There we go. So this is about where we're reading right here. This is our min line, and our max line is way up here. So you don't want to be in between, you don't want to be more than half between your minimum and maximum, just in case it goes super hot and you'll overflood the engine. So I did leave about 1.5 inches between the minimum line and where it's filled up to. And so when that's super hot, running about 200 degrees plus, which I really never run it over 205. I like to keep it to stay in that 180 to 200 degree range, but just in case if you get it over there, you're not having to worry about it overfilling. So I have it perfectly filled right now, just about 1.25 inches under the fill line, which is great. So now we're just going to put this all back together. So what I like to do is I just take my funnel, kind of tap it against the sides to get the excess oil out. Then I take my rag and I kind of fold it around my funnel like this, the best that I can. That way just no oil gets out and it's wiping off in the inside of the rag instead of being all over the car. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our Ferrari cap, super easily, screw it all the way back on. Make sure it's tight, but not too tight to where you can't get it off. Now we're going to take our plastic cover. This is a little bit of a hard part. So what I like to do is I like to slide it just in like this, and then kind of bend it a little bit to push down on that side, and then I pull back like that, and then that should not be able to turn anymore. This one not able to turn anymore, and that one not able to turn anymore. Make sure your dipstick's all the way in, everything's all tightened, and that is how you add more oil to your Ferrari consuming oil eater. Because like I said at the beginning of this video, the 812 eats oil and burns through oil, especially since it's straight piped, as you guys heard that cold start with that big 6.5 liter V12. Now we're gonna go fill it up with some gas. I don't need much, maybe about 1/4 of a tank. So we have about 3/4 in there. So let's go see how much it is. I know gas is super expensive right now, so I'm hoping it comes down. That's why I go to Costco, but let's go check out the prices. Now for closing the hood, I don't like to leave all my fingerprints on it, even though I'm washing it. So I bring it about down halfway and just let it drop, and it sits nice and flush and smooth with those gorgeous wheels on there. Man, we couldn't have picked a better choice. All right, so this is what we are paying for 93, 456 roughly. So let's, the t-shirt method. There we go. And insert. There we go, now we're fueling. So pretty expensive right now. I know a couple months ago it was around $3, but hopefully this will be back down soon. I cannot believe how much fuel this car holds. I think it holds around 22 gallons of fuel, which is a lot, but I guess you have that big V12, so you have to get a lot of fuel in there. But I will see you guys back at the house. All right, everyone, I hope that fixed your problem if you do have an F12 or an 812, or really any Ferrari. Maybe this is the thing with all Ferraris. This is our first one. The 812 Superfast is our first one. We've had 2 McLarens. Never went to Lamborghini side, but have loved this car so far. It's been really reliable so far. Nothing has happened too bad to it. Like, obviously we got that low pressure oil signal that was early on when we got the car. And then we did have some check engine lights come up because we feel like some of the air intakes were clogged by debris or something of the sort. We did a full clear check on that and everything checked out to be good. So I hope if you guys are having the same oil trouble that we did, that you guys are filling 1 quart of oil for every 600 miles. If it's straight piped, I would recommend every 400 miles. Just depends, 1, how hard you're driving the car, 2, how much you're driving the car, and 3, if it's straight piped or if it's stock. Even with the aftermarket exhaust that still has cats, it might still eat up more oil than a normal stock one. I hope you guys got a lot of information out of this, because I know it's hard when you buy a car this expensive and you're like, damn, why do I have an oil issue? And I hope this fixes your problem. I hope it's not, anything too major. If it is, I would take it to your local Ferrari dealership or take it to a shop that you trust with a Ferrari mechanic like we do. But everything checks out. We filled it up. Always check on your temperatures. Make sure your temperatures, I would say, get to at least 170 degrees first before you start driving this car hard. And make sure your PSIs at idle are sitting around 15 plus. If you're getting to that 15 mark, I usually sit around 20 to 30 at idle when it's fully warmed up. And you got to check when it's warmed up too, because it's going to be at higher PSI when the car is colder. But when it's warmed up and you're sitting at that 15 mark, 15 to 20, that's when you got to start filling up your oil. But like I said, always check, put a quart in, and make sure you're doing your yearly maintenances like your transmission fluids, oil filters, oil change, all that good stuff. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is our first one, and I have a lot of stuff I got to show you guys about this car. If you're an 812 owner, subscribe for future videos, because I have a lot on this car that I didn't even know about until a couple weeks ago that I can totally help you guys out, that I wish we knew when we first bought the car. Now, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you don't even own a Ferrari and you want to, or if you're, just here for the car content, subscribe, like the video, and we have a lot more to come. I'll be working with the Z06 too, which are getting 2 massive rear tires. And if you like the video, subscribe, like, and share, and I will see you guys in the next vlog.